Yesterday we talked about what cancer in particular?
Prostate.
Prostate. Who remembers the 3 letters of the compound?
DHT.
What was it?
You said it right.
DHT, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Hydrotestosterone.
Yeah.
And what are 2 natural remedies that can block the conversion of testosterone to DHT that can be helpful in shrinking an enlarged prostate?
Salt palmetto
Salt palmetto.
and pumpkin seed.
All right, any more that we mentioned? Those are 2 of the ones that we showed here. Turmeric could be helpful. Well, it's anti-inflammatory in general. But things like spearmint, remember?
Oh yeah, and
Flaxseeds are
peppermint.
helpful in
And
that.
peppermint.
Flaxseed could help in different ways. It's
And
anti-inflammatory,
Peppermint.
and it could help reduce testosterone levels in general.
Okay.
So yeah, very good.
Amen.
Peppermint.
Peppermint and spearmint tea.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so today, who knows what we're going to be talking about? That's right. If you will take a look at the seminar outline sheet we have here, you'll notice that today the topic is liver cancer, and the remedy we were going to demonstrate was a detox tea of dandelion and milk thistle. However, they did not arrive in the mail as they were supposed to today, so I'll have to do that tomorrow, along with our pine needle tea. But we do have a different remedy that is also very helpful for the liver. So you get 2 remedies for the liver because they were late. So that'll be good. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to once again have a pre-test. Now, the last time everyone did very good. You showed you had an extremely high amount of knowledge already, even going into this seminar. And I think that a lot of that had to do with lifestyle matters. Amen? The things that Sister Bethea has been teaching. So today I'm going to ask you some questions dealing with liver cancer. Okay? Is everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay, first of all, what are the most common causes of liver injury? Not just cancer, but liver injury.
Alcohol.
Alcohol, number 1. That's very good. Good, alcohol. Okay, what's another one?
Smoking.
Accident? Well, accidental ingestion of things, like, a child takes some Tylenol or something like that. And believe it or not, Tylenol is the number 2 cause of liver injury in the United States. Tylenol.
I don't know.
Believe it or not. Yes, Tylenol is very toxic to the liver. And it's probably one of the most toxic over-the-counter drugs. So let's just say drugs. There are a lot of drugs that are toxic to the liver. Does anyone know why?
The ingredients?
Well, the ingredients have to be broken down most of the time by the liver. And sometimes you'll have something that's not toxic when it's going into the body, but then it turns toxic when the liver metabolizes it. That's what happens here with Tylenol. It's not necessarily as toxic initially, but when the liver starts to break it down, because that's one of the liver's jobs is to break down chemicals, then it becomes very toxic and destroys liver cells. And there are other drugs as well that are metabolized by the liver or broken down by the liver, and they damage the liver in the process. The liver is very resilient though, thankfully. But over time, these things can cause repetitive injury. And I want you to think of this. Anytime you have repetitive injury after injury after injury after injury after injury, you have much higher risk of cancer growth. Why is that? Because there's healing started, and then it's interrupted. Healing started, then it's interrupted. Healing started, then it's interrupted. And there can be mutations that form in the DNA, the instructions that tell the body how to reform this tissue that can end up causing tumor growth or cancer growth. So repetitive use of alcohol could cause cancer. It does definitely cause even short-term liver damage as well. Repetitive use of heavy drugs that are damaging to the liver could cause cancer long-term.
What about ibuprofen?
Ibuprofen is not as dangerous for the liver, but it has its own dangers. Just about every drug has side effects, you know.
Okay.
That's why, personally, I like to go with the natural things whenever possible.
Right.
Because they usually, if they do have side effects, they're very mild compared with the more toxic pharmaceuticals. And that's why I think it's important, if we want to look after our liver's health, to seek out alternatives. To seek out, is there a healthier thing than taking this thing my doctor wants me to take? Doesn't mean that, sometimes we get in trouble if we don't take certain medications, right? But a lot of times there are other options, but we need to find them out. You know, I wouldn't suggest anyone just stop taking their high blood pressure pills and not do anything. Why? What's going to happen? Your blood pressure is going to go high, and you're not going to have any remedy for it. So seek out other alternatives, and a lot of times there are some healthier alternatives than pharmaceuticals, and often they come in the form of lifestyle changes as well. So going for a walk, exercising, eating the healthy foods, getting rid of the alcohol, right? These things are much more powerful than almost all the most powerful prescription medications. There's actually a field of medicine that's developed called lifestyle medicine, because it's such a powerful help for healing and for prevention of disease as well. Okay, what's another one over here? I know one that you probably don't know unless you have come to one of my previous seminars a few years ago. I'm not going to tell you what the title is, because then you'll know. So any more that you can think of? Go ahead. Fat? Yes, definitely it can. Having the process is not necessarily just because of the extra fat on the body, but it's the process in which that fat was deposited. It could also end up being deposited in the liver as well. And that leads me, if no one else has any other ideas. Diet, okay? You both are on the right track. All right, you're on the right track. Let me tell you, we don't have any examples here, because I know Sister Bethay would definitely not serve this to you all. Okay? But you could go down to the local store and you see a vending machine outside, and you can get 12 ounces of it. Soda. Yes. Soda is probably one of the worst things for the liver. I'm not talking about short term, but long term use. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. But sodas. And for that matter, sweets that are high in fructose. Okay? So are sodas high in fructose?
Yes.
Yes. What kind of fructose?
High
fructose corn syrup. That's right, which comes from corn. Fructose in and of itself is not a dangerous thing when it's found in plants, because it's absorbed normally. But when you take all the fiber out of that plant and you refine that fructose, it becomes very dangerous to the liver, and we'll show you how that works after a bit. But these are probably the big three. There are others as well. And you said injury, you definitely can have lacerations to the liver in a car accident. It's an organ that has a lot of blood flow to it, and seatbelt could technically, liver is right. If you want to trace where your ribs are, your liver is kind of like a triangle right here. Just underneath that lower rib, you may have a little bit of liver protrusion out of here. But why do you think God put it under the rib cage? To protect it. Because it is a very, it's easily injured, and so it is protected there. Now, thankfully, it's also very resilient, because God knew that our livers needed to be very resilient because of the things that they would go through. just our environment, going around and breathing in the air sometimes, breathing those toxins. You walk around and you smell the car exhaust, or someone smoking, or, you're breathing that in, your liver will have to detoxify those things. And so, thankfully, God has made our livers to be very resilient. But they can only take so much before they start complaining, and even things like cancer can develop. Yes, here.
How does fat get deposited in the liver?
That's a good question. Fatty livers usually come from alcohol use. And it's because alcohol has to be metabolized by the liver, and if you have too much of it, then the liver can't process all of it, so it just turns it into triglyceride and it stores it in the liver. The same thing with sodas. All that fructose, the liver has to process fructose. So all that sugar, I would say the fructose gets put into the bloodstream, it goes straight to the liver, and the liver says, we can't package all this, so we're just going to store it as triglyceride real quick. And over time, that builds these fatty deposits in the liver. And you know what? A heavy soda drinker could have a liver that looks like an alcoholic because of that same reason. It's because of all the fructose, and it's going straight to the liver. And the liver has to constantly work on trying to process it, break it down, distribute it. That's its job. But if it gets too much of it, it gets overwhelmed and it starts storing it as fatty deposits within the liver. So, yes.
So is the gallbladder above the liver?
The gallbladder kind of sits tucked right inside the lower part of the liver.
Okay.
That's a good question. The gallbladder is an accessory organ, which means it works for the liver. It stores a product of the liver called bile, and it stores enough of it so that when you have your meal, it's able to contract and get a good amount of bile into that food mixture that your stomach has just processed. Which, I like to look at physiology, because then you can kind of understand, well, I think that God made that physiology so that we would act a certain way, For instance, with the gallbladder has to be full, and when it contracts, that's your optimal time to digest the food that you have there. And I don't know how long it takes for the liver to produce a certain amount of bile, but I'm assuming it's at least 3-4 hours. So does it make sense for us to be eating 10 meals a day?
No.
It does. The gallbladder is not going to have time to fill with the necessary amount of bile to process that food correctly. So 2 to 3 meals are optimal. And for some people, 2 meals are definitely optimal, especially if they have a sluggish bile production, because then they're going to have better digestion. So it's interesting to know how physiology happens. There's a lot of important things to know about the bile as well that we'll talk about. In fact, our remedy here focuses on the bile. And I'll just say this, if you cleanse the bile, you also cleanse the liver. And we'll get into how that happens as well. Question?
Brother Ron, how about coffee drinkers?
Coffee drinkers.
Yeah, and the sugar in coffee, how does that work on the liver?
It depends on what type of sugar it is.
Little cane sugar?
Well, fructose is going to damage the liver more than any other. The thing about other types of sugar, not that they're necessarily good for us to have, but the other organs can use those types of sugar, like regular glucose or table sugar, has a component of glucose in it. So the muscles can use that glucose, the brain can use that glucose, But fructose is, it kind of targets the liver if you have high amounts of it with damaging effects. High blood sugar in general is not good. That can cause something called glycation, which basically, if you think of, sugar coating, your insides are getting sugar coated. Your cells are not going to function properly because they've been glycated. They've been adhered with so many sugar molecules. They're not going to function properly. So it's not a good thing in general to consume a lot of refined sweets, but specifically fructose is dangerous for the liver. And what do they usually put in sodas? The cheapest thing they can,
Yes.
which is high fructose corn syrup. So, question, yes.
When you was talking, I was thinking about my daughter. When she went in surgery, she's supposed to be going for the gallbladder, and she had bowel problems, and she had had them for a while. Because I heard you talking about the bowels and how it worked together.
Yeah.
For the gallbladder to do its work, and then the liver, helping the liver. So whenever they did the operation, they found that it was cancer there with the liver, mostly the liver. So I wonder what happened in that process with the gallbladder, and then you said the sluggish bowels,
Yeah.
and then the liver.
Yes.
Because all of that was infected.
Yeah. Well, if you're having problems with the liver producing bile, the liver is going to become very toxic, because bile production is the way that the liver gets rid of most of its toxins. And there's a very important factor. In fact, I'll mention this now, then we'll get into our song.
Okay.
We can't skip that. That kind of encompasses all of this. Can I erase this here?
Yes.
Okay. So, we have the liver. Let's just say the liver's right here. And like I said, it's kind of a triangle. The gallbladder sits kind of tucked up in here, and you can see it's kind of going inside here. And there is the stomach, which comes down here. And the small intestine comes over here. There's a duct which connects the gallbladder to the small intestine. That's where the bile comes out. And then the small intestine goes for, 16 feet. It's very long. So what happens here is, if you, let's just say the person is eating something or doing something that's very toxic, and the liver detoxifies that, and it puts it into the bile. Where does the bile go? It goes where? Into the small intestine, right? So the bile is coming over here into the small intestine. What happens in the small intestine? Digestion, right? In the first part. What about the second part? Starts with an A. Absorption. Yes, absorption. So digestion and absorption. Okay, are you going to digest necessarily the toxins? No. But will you absorb them? Yes, you can reabsorb those toxins. And so here's what happens. The toxins come back into the liver, and then they are detoxified from the liver cells again, put back into the gallbladder, and then they come back into the small intestine, and then they're reabsorbed into the liver, then they come back into the gallbladder, then they are excreted into the small intestine, then they're reabsorbed into the gallbladder, and multiply this times 1,000, and you've got cancer. You know? Because you're just reabsorbing these toxins over and over and over again.
What happens if you don't have a gallbladder?
If you don't have a gallbladder, you're still secreting bile, but it's not as much. And if you don't have a gallbladder, it's good to lower the intake of fats in your diet. Because studies have found that removal of gallbladder and a regular diet increase the risk of colon cancer by about 250%. So that's something to consider. Why is that? It's because the bile it plays a huge role in breaking down fats. So if you have your gallbladder removed, it'd be best to avoid fried foods and avoid oils and that kind of thing in your diet. You probably will see a huge difference in your digestion. You feel a lot better with your digestion if you have a gallbladder removed. But you still are going to produce bile, and you still will reabsorb it. Okay? The same thing will happen, just you won't get as much of it secreted at once because you're missing that. It's kind of like a bag, but the liver will still produce it. Okay.
Somebody is listening to your presentation, they're saying it's very hard to hear you.
Oh, hard to hear. Okay. Well, I'll try to speak up. All right. So, how do you stop this? Do you think we should try to stop it?
Oh, yeah, because it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. So, here's what we could do. We can put something into the stomach called fiber.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
And fiber gets, by definition, fiber cannot be digested. It just stays there, okay? So the fiber comes over here, it comes in contact with the bile, and guess what happens? The fiber can adhere to those toxins, okay? So fiber, and here's another one, activated charcoal is very good for this too. It's a good remedy, it does similar. Fiber breaks the cycle. Okay? And the average American consumes way under the recommended amount of fiber. So obviously our livers are in trouble because we do drink a lot of sodas and we don't have an intake of fiber. A very little fiber intake. So we need to get back to those whole foods because they contain a lot of fiber. Some simple remedies could be taking some supplements that have fiber in them, like flaxseed has a lot of soluble fiber. Chia seeds have a lot of soluble fiber, which soluble fiber is good because that's the one that's going to really adhere to the toxins. You ever taken chia seeds and put them in a jar and put water or some liquid? They swell up, don't they?
Yes.
And they have kind of like this gel
Jelly.
around. That's the soluble fiber. Water can penetrate it and it kind of it swells up, right? Well, that swelling effect, it also can take in toxins and get rid of them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's why it's so important for a healthy liver to have adequate fiber intake, in particular the soluble fiber. Yeah, question.
You said, spell it. The
The-
seed, what did you say?
Chia,
Okay.
chia seed,
Oh, the chia seed, okay.
and flax seeds.
Okay.
I'm sure there are others. Some of the grains too, like oats, has a lot of soluble fiber. You ever cooked oatmeal and then you put it in the refrigerator? And then you take it out, they're like, what's that? That slime on top. That's soluble fiber. And that's actually very beneficial for you. You want to eat that. Because that will help to absorb the toxins that are here that will not be recycled and reabsorbed into the liver. So that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a real simple thing to do, and it should help us to remember to get our recommended intake of fiber. I believe it's about 30 grams a day for most adults. And the average American consumes far under that amount. What's the key? What's the secret to getting fiber? Try to eat foods as close as God has prepared them for you.
Right.
Okay? So that you have the full fruit, you have the peel on that fruit. The peel of the fruit usually has the fiber. I'm not talking about eating avocado skins, but apple skins are great. I used to when I was a boy, I would only eat apples if they were peeled.
Oh, okay.
I was very particular. And my grandmother my mom wouldn't peel them for me, but my grandmother, she let me get away with a little bit more, I guess. But she would always peel them for me. And I used to sit there and watch those apples turn brown. Remember that?
That's right.
You know why that happens? Because there's very little antioxidants in the inside of the apple. Almost all the antioxidants or the health of the apple is in the skin.
Wow.
So it's very, very important. And talk about anti-cancer properties. Apple skins have been shown to greatly reduce the growth of liver cancer cells. And just the regular, the Rome apples, the cheap ones, actually showed the biggest effect. So those apple skins are very, very powerful in terms of prevention. So, okay, so that being said, now you know the secret here. It's fiber and detoxing the liver.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and listen to our song, our liver song. And I told Sister Bethay, I'm going to make a CD of all the songs for each night, okay? These are all original songs. I didn't sing them, but I put them together. So here's the song on liver health. Let me just go here. And the words are here on the screen.
Every day I make a choice to listen to that healthy voice. Plant-based meal, a bowl of green. Hydration keeps my liver clean. Oh, keep your liver strong and free. With every step a choice to be. No alcohol, no heavy meds. Just a healthy life ahead. I'll skip the drinks, let others pour. For a life that's worth much more. Move my body, breathe the air. My liver thanks me with its care. Oh, keep your liver strong and free. With every step a choice to be. No alcohol, no heavy meds. Just a healthy life ahead. High fiber food, exercise too, and water pure to see me through. With every choice I take the lead to give my liver what it needs. Oh, keep your liver strong and free. With every step a choice to be. Plant-based meals, no sugar, sweet. A healthy life feels so complete. For a future bright, a liver sound. This is where my health is found. So I'll keep my liver strong with every day. My heart's own song.
Okay, how many of you are inspired now?
Amen.
Very good.
Amen.
Okay, you will get to listen to that again, as I said. Okay, so anything that the song covered that I didn't cover? Hydration, right? Adequate water intake.
Yes.
The bile is mostly water. And so if you don't have adequate water, the bile is going to be more concentrated, and if it's containing toxins, that will be more concentrated as well. So you've heard the secret to pollution is dilution. You want to dilute those toxins so they're less harmful when they come out of the liver as well. Good question here.
How much water do you think you should drink?
That's a good question. There are differing advice on that. Some people say, I think like an ounce for every 5 pounds or every 10 pounds of your body weight, or maybe a cup for every 10 pounds. But honestly, I'll make it much simpler than that, because there's such a wide range of potential. You could drink this much and still be healthy. You could drink this much and still be healthy. Now, you'll be going to the bathroom a lot more, but there is a limit that you don't want to breach. There is a concept of temperance, which is abstaining from things that are harmful, but using the good things in moderation. Even water should be used in moderation.
Yes.
If you drink too much water, you could have your sodium diluted and your brain could swell. That's called water intoxication, but it's very rare. And you really have to force yourself to drink. You have to drink gallons and gallons of water at a time to have that happen. So don't worry about that. This is the easy way to remember how much water to drink. You ready for it?
Yeah.
5 to stay alive. 5 8-ounce glasses to stay alive. 8 to feel great. And 12 to rejuvenate. Okay?
Say it
Now,
again.
5 to stay alive.
Wait a minute.
8 to feel great. And 12 to rejuvenate. So why might you need to rejuvenate? Let's say you've been working outside and you're sweating. You're going to need to drink a little bit more water, right? Let's say you're trying to get over an illness. You may need to drink a little bit more water as well. So studies have shown once you get above 5 glasses of water a day, and this is 8-ounce glasses, so we're not talking about, this is 20 ounces right here. This would be almost 3 of those servings. So this is about 6 right here. So that's 40 ounces altogether. Everyone understand what I'm saying by this? If you were to take this and pour all this water out into 8-ounce glasses, you would have about 6. Okay? A little short, but almost 6 glasses right here. So if I had 1 more of these, actually if I had 2 more, it would be enough to rejuvenate, wouldn't it? Okay, so you see that's probably about how much most people need a day. You could drink more, it's not going to hurt, but you don't want to drink water gallons at a time. That's when you start to run into trouble.
About 80 ounces a day.
What was that?
80 ounces of water a day.
Yeah, about that. 8, that'd be about 10 cups right there. Yeah, that'd be fine. Even up to 100 should be fine. But even more than that, I mean, some people drink a gallon a day and they have no issues whatsoever. You want to make sure it's spaced out. You don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to drink my water. Let me sit down at 12 o'clock and I'll drink my gallon. It doesn't work like that. That's not the way you want to drink it, because you will just go to the bathroom and your body will not really benefit from all the water that you drink. And that's probably dangerous to drink a gallon at a time. What we want to do is to space out our water so that we're drinking some in the morning, some in the whatever afternoon, a little bit in the evening, so we're not waking up needing to use the bathroom. So it's just a good idea to kind of plan out your water intake, and that when you do that, it becomes very easy to drink enough during the day. You might need to remind yourself, or walk around with a water bottle. That's what I like to do, because then I know, hey, I'm feeling a little thirsty, I'm going to take a sip. Okay, I'm going to drink a few ounces. And that's a nice way to make sure you're reaching your goals. So does that answer your question? And like I said, there are other methods, and I know some people at my seminars will raise their hand and say, no, that's not scientifically accurate. You need to take your body weight and divide it by 2 and multiply it times the coefficient of something. And I'm thinking, no one's going to remember that. So water intake, it can be very simple. And true, you can be more precise, but there's a wide margin of safety for water intake. So just make sure you're somewhere in the middle of that. So at least above 5 glasses of water a day, 5 8-ounce, up to 12 is a really good place to try to target. Okay, so hydration, what else was mentioned here? Exercise, right? Why is exercise so important for the liver?
The detox.
Helps the detox. The liver takes in a large amount of blood, okay? Not only from the digestive tract, you have a large amount of blood that goes there, but also from the circulatory system. The blood flows to the liver because the liver also helps to detoxify the blood. So if you have increased circulation through exercise, you're detoxifying faster. You see that? Because the liver is one of your major detoxifying organs, and when you're sweating because of exercise, you're actually helping the liver because you're getting rid of some of the toxins through your pores and through your exhalations. The lungs are actually a detoxifying organ. We just have to use them. No, that's really the key. And the best place to detoxify the lungs is outside, because you breathe in the fresh air. Outside air has at least about 3% more oxygen than indoor air. So indoor air, I think, is 17 to 18% oxygen. Outdoor air is up to 21, 22% oxygen. So it's quite a bit more oxygen. So that's why we feel better when we go outside and go for a walk or exercise outside. And as long as there are not a lot of sources of toxins out there, then we're going to be detoxifying, because indoor air is 3 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, according to the EPA. So most of the time, the best air is always going to be outside. And so if we can go out there and go for a walk, breathe deeply, we're going to be helping our liver to function more effectively and detoxifying in other ways so that our liver can be benefited. Now, one thing that's not on here that I did kind of mention was activated charcoal. Why is activated charcoal so helpful for the liver?
It absorbs too.
It cleanses, it absorbs, okay? The term for charcoal is adsorb. So A-D-S-O-R-B.
Okay.
Say that again.
A-D-S-O-R-B. Can I erase this here? Okay. Okay. So activated charcoal, it doesn't absorb. A-B-S-O-R-B. Yes. It's A-D.
Yeah.
Okay, so fiber will kind of absorb things, right? It'll absorb the water, absorb water-based toxins and that kind of thing. It'll form a sticky goo that'll help get rid of some of those toxins. So here's your fiber here. But charcoal will adsorb to things. And what does that term mean? Well, let's say your activated charcoal, if you're looking under a microscope, it looks like this. And this is activated charcoal here. Okay. Now, notice there are all these holes, right? Over here. Everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
This is all surface area. And regular charcoal, this is activated charcoal. Regular charcoal will look more like this under a microscope. Okay? Is regular charcoal still good? I'm not talking about the charcoal briquettes you buy for barbecuing, because those have lighter fluid and stuff in them. You don't want to use that. But regular charcoal, you could put a hardwood log on fire, and once it started burning, you could put a cover over it, metal cover, and it will turn into a brick of charcoal. And you can break that up and you can use it. It's detoxifying. It'll look like this. Activated charcoal has been pressurized with steam, and so it creates these channels in the molecules. Now, this is how charcoal adsorbs things, and I'll tell you why, and you'll see why activated charcoal is so much more powerful. Charcoal adsorbs things. Let's say we have a toxin here, right? And here's a toxin here. Here's a toxin here. Because this is carbon, it binds to this. See that? Mm-hmm. It gets stuck to it, kind of almost like a magnetic force that holds it there. All right? So this is a good thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Get rid of toxins. But look at how much more area this has to stick things to. You could have, toxins in here, 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 and I can't draw all this, I'll be here all night. But you get the picture, right? There's so much more surface area to bind things to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting statistic for you. 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal has the surface area to absorb things as a whole football field.
One
wow.
teaspoon?
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon.
And where do you get it from?
Well, you could make it yourself, but it's kind of complicated. You can easily make the regular charcoal. Activated charcoal, you can easily get it as a supplement. It's very easily attainable. Any health food store should have activated
The
charcoal.
only herb?
And you can buy it in capsules, you can buy it in tablets, you can buy it in powder. But the best way to get charcoal, if you really want to use it for its detoxifying effects, is to buy it in the powder and put a teaspoon in water and mix it up and just drink it. Be careful, it makes a big mess if you spill it.
Yeah.
And it can stain clothes and stain all kinds of things, but it's very, very powerful.
So how often would you do that? Drink it or what?
It depends on your goal. And the reason why I say that is there are studies that looked at different goals that people had. One was reducing cholesterol. Study found that after 1 month of taking, now they took quite a bit of charcoal, which could cause constipation in some people. They took 1 tablespoon 3 times a day, which is quite a bit of charcoal. But guess what? They reduced their level of LDL cholesterol by 40% in 1 month, which at that time was faster than most of the statins that were on the market. It was only later they started making the super statins that could do that in a month as well. But when they wrote the study, and this was actually published, I believe it was in the Lancet or the British Medical Journal, which are very prestigious medical journals, and they said the side effects were negligible, almost non-existent. But you look at the side effects from statins, and there's a huge list. One of them is liver cancer, potentially, and liver injury.
So that would be like 1 teaspoon a day for 1 month?
You know, in the study they took 1 tablespoon 3 times a day. I think that's too much.
Yeah.
I don't think you need that much. Honestly, if I was going to do it, I would take it every morning.
Every morning, okay.
Just
I would take one teaspoon in water every morning, and that's it. Because you should get very good benefit from just doing that. And in the morning, your gallbladder has been filling with bile throughout the night because the liver has been working. So the first thing that you drink in the morning causes a secretion of bile. It actually contracts the gallbladder, and you get bile mixed in with whatever you drink. So keep that in mind, because it may be a good idea to have some lemon water or some charcoal water first thing in the morning. Something that will help to detoxify that bile or bind. Now, lemons detoxify. They've been used for centuries for their detoxifying properties. They've even done studies on lemon juice, just lemon juice, and the South American variety of rattlesnake. And they found that just drinking lemon juice after the mice were bit by the rattlesnake decreased the venom load by, I think it was like 30%.
Wow.
So just drinking it, it's amazing. So it is an amazing detoxifier. One thing to keep in mind, viruses, they're kind of like venom. You know, they're proteins and they float around the body causing problems, which is what venom does too. Now, yes, they operate in different mechanisms, but lemon could destroy them too. So a good time to drink lemon juice is when you're coming down with something, because your blood will be supercharged with these lemon compounds, whether it's the citric acid compounds or whatever it is that's scientifically known to decrease venom load, could also destroy or help to neutralize some of these viral particles. So lemon, it's a wonderful remedy. We're going to use some today.
And you said tablespoon or teaspoon?
Of the lemon juice?
Of the charcoal?
Personally, I would take a teaspoon.
Teaspoon, okay.
Yeah, when you start getting more than a teaspoon, you have more risk of constipation.
Okay.
and you just have to start drinking more water. It may even be that they had a divided dose, which I think was better. And I recall from the study they took 1 tablespoon 3 times a day, but it may be that they divided it into 3 doses, which is more logical. Hopefully they did do that, otherwise they probably were suffering from constipation. So 1 teaspoon before each meal could be helpful. You might wonder, well, won't it adsorb with my nutrients? Studies have actually asked that question. And in sheep, and I think it was also done in cattle, they fed activated charcoal with the meals, no nutrient deficiencies developed. So that kind of answers that. The body can still pull nutrients away from charcoal if it needs it. Your body is fearfully and wonderfully made, and it has all that it needs when it's functioning properly to break down nutrients and to absorb them. So that being said, we are going to go ahead, I guess, and make our lemon water drink. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, charcoal, does it also absorb nutrients that are beneficial to the body?
Not that we know of. Okay. Now, charcoal, it has carbon bonds. So anything organic that's carbon-based can be bonded to charcoal. But keep in mind the digestive tract breaks carbon bonds all the time. So with the enzymes and the different chemicals that it produces. So according to studies long-term studies that looked at animals that were ingesting activated charcoal on a regular basis, no nutrient deficiencies were detected in the blood work of the animals. That's not to say that you personally could not develop something, because it's theoretically possible. But according to all the research that I've seen, it's very unlikely that would happen. Now, that being said, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it will decrease your medications. And that's something to remember. And there's actually a window at least when I used to read the Davis's drug guide for nurses, it would suggest if you're going to take activated charcoal, take it 2 hours before a medication or 2 hours after a medication. Otherwise, it will potentially bind and adsorb the medication. Okay? Now, if someone accidentally took a medication, it's a good time to take activated charcoal. Obviously, you want to call your poison control center and verify, because not every pharmaceutical will be adsorbed by charcoal, but many of them will. And in fact, the acetaminophen or the Tylenol overdoses, one of the best things to do right away is to get that activated charcoal into the system to adsorb those potentially toxic chemicals. Yes.
Does the charcoal, does it have is it visceral fat by?
Visceral fat?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Visceral. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
It may help just because of its positive effect on detoxification, and that can lower inflammation and lower depositing of fat.
Yeah.
But for getting rid of fat, the best thing is always going to be dietary management and exercise. Those two things. Now, water also is helpful. Water is, you've heard of the original 0-calorie beverage, and that I think Pepsi claims that, or Diet Coke or something like that. Water is the original 0-calorie beverage. And in fact, water is the original negative calorie beverage, because 10 minutes after you drink a cup of water, I think it's actually 16 ounces of water, your metabolism increases tremendously, and it lasts for about an hour. The average person just staying hydrated with adequate amounts of water will burn about 10 pounds of fat a year if they switch over to drinking water, instead of adding 10 pounds of fat with the sodas. So water is a negative calorie beverage. And I used to hate drinking water. I remember growing up, I would not want to drink it. And I would drink maybe juices, sodas, whatever it is. Transitioning over to water may take some time, but now that I'm fully transitioned over to water, and I've been so for 15, 20 years, I wouldn't think of drinking anything else when I'm thirsty. Why? Because this is what my body's asking for. And a lot of times we grow up and we're kind of confused because we think, I'm thirsty, I need a Pepsi.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thirsty, I need a Coke, right? Well, that's just the conditioning that has taken place with our minds. What we really want is water. We want water. If you just took the water out of that Pepsi or out of that Coke and you took a spoon of that syrup, you're like, give me some water, please. Give me some water. Because it's the water that we really want, that our bodies are craving. So water is essential. Okay.
Is LeBlue?
And I was gonna ask the same question. There's
Yeah.
water to drink.
Yeah.
That's a good question. It says ultra pure water, and it's made in the USA. It's BPA free, ozonated with ozone, or oxygenated with ozone. It looks pretty good to me, but I'm sure you can get good water just about anywhere. I like to purify my water with reverse osmosis. So I just have it out of my own tap because it's purified water. But some people like distilled water. Some people like spring water. If you're living in the country and you've got your own well, you may have the best water right there. But you can get a water, it's called a total dissolved solid meter, a TDS meter. They're about $10. You buy it on Amazon or anywhere online. And you can test your own water to see how much dissolved particles are in there. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes you have very good water coming straight out of your tap, and you didn't even know it. Now, usually that's not the case, but sometimes you'd be surprised. Well, I remember when we lived in Idaho, our water was cleaner than when we ran it through a filter, because the filter was actually adding things to it.
Wow.
So we just got rid of the filter and started drinking out of the tap. But we did have a well, so.
They're not like Brita filters?
It wasn't a Brita filter, it was called a Big Berkey filter.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm not saying those are bad, but we had these screw-on additional filters that were supposed to take fluoride out of our water, and those were actually adding minerals and whatever was in the filter, they were adding them into the water. That's how they neutralized the fluoride. But we didn't have fluoride in our well water, so it made it more contaminated than coming straight out of our faucet. So that's when we decided, okay, we'll send that one back.
Ron, could you mention that filter again? That
What was
filter that you mentioned? Well, that what you can measure?
TDS meter.
TDS meter.
Yeah, TDS. I'll write it down for you.
Yeah, on Amazon, it's $8.
Yeah. They're very nice, and you can test.
What order for us, Brother Freak?
Limited time deal.
So TDS meter. And you can even test the water here. You want to know how pure this water really is? Get one of those meters and put it in there and you'll see. Now I would estimate, since this has been purified, that it will have very little dissolved solids in it. Sometimes they do put minerals back in the water and that will show up on the TDS meter. And don't worry about it. If it's been purified and they add the minerals back, then you know it's still relatively pure water. But this would probably, since there's no minerals in here, I would estimate this would be maybe 0.0010 parts per million. Very little dissolved particles in here.
It's expensive, so you're probably right. It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't go and buy the most expensive water because I have a lot of thirsty mouths in my family. But we do try to make the best choice we can with the resources we have. But if you can afford this, it probably is the best water. Now, I do like that it's BPA free. And you want to check your bottles to make sure they're BPA free. Why? Because BPA causes cancer. It interferes with estrogen and causes all sorts of side effects.
And the blue is steam distilled. So
Okay.
it's the distilled water, but it's steamed distilled.
Excellent.
That's what they take.
Very good.
You said MPA?
BPA.
BPA is what? What you say? BPA is what?
BPA is a toxin that's found in a lot of plastics. But because there's so many studies on it and showing that it's dangerous and it causes cancer and interferes with hormones, they have started to eliminate it from certain plastics. But you still find it in a lot of things that you buy in a lot of food you buy in plastic has BPA in it still. The can linings, some of that still has BPA in it as well. So, and they didn't tell you what new chemical they put in there besides the BPA, but hopefully it's not as harmful. Ideally, you get your water not out of plastic, ideally, but honestly, it's very difficult to do these days.
Yeah.
So, probably the very best you could do is purify it right out of your sink and put it in a stainless steel or a glass bottle. That's going to give you the most pure water. But besides that, this is your second best right here. So, would I drink this? Yes, I would. And I'm pretty health conscious about what I drink. Okay.
Now I see 1 meter here on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a TDS meter, but it says all new pH meter. Is that the same thing?
So also that will check pH then as well, I guess. Yeah, that will tell your pH. That's just pH right there. So that only tells you your pH of your water.
Okay, so it was
Yeah.
under TDS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it helpful to know pH of the water?
It could be. Honestly, you've heard of the alkaline water
Yes.
thing, right? Alkaline water is probably not as effective as some people make it out to be, because once it gets in the stomach, it's acidic. You know, because the stomach is about pH of 2. So anything that you put, like a very light alkaline water, it's going to immediately be acid. You know, it may taste a little better. And if it's very, very strong, if it's a very strong base and it's neutralizing the stomach acid, then you're going to have problems with digestion over time, because the stomach acid needs to be there to actually digest the proteins.
Yes, it is.
So I wouldn't recommend, maybe it might be okay every now and then, wouldn't hurt anything, but if you're drinking only alkaline water all the time, you could have problems with digestion, just because of the impact on the stomach acid. Now, there are not a lot of studies on that. Maybe it would have a reverse effect. Sometimes if you give it a little bit of alkaline jolt, then it will become more acidic. Who knows? But theoretically, it's not a good thing to have all the time. Would I drink it if I was in a desert and I was dying of thirst? Oh yes, I would. But my day-to-day beverage would be just simple water, as pure as I can get it. So, yes.
We are really fearfully and wonderfully made,
Yes, we are.
because the things we put in sometimes that we think is good, it, like you were saying, the body don't think so.
Yeah.
And so that's the most important thing,
Yes.
because the body will tell you
That's
what,
right.
what it like and what it don't like.
That's right. That's right. Now, one thing that alkaline water might help is indigestion. Because if you have an over-acid stomach, then yeah, it will help to neutralize some, kind of like a Maalox or a Tums or whatever it is. But then again, studies have shown that chronic use of antacids cause problems with protein digestion. They cause food allergies. They cause B12 malabsorption and that kind of thing. Because the stomach was made to be acidic. And when we increase the pH of the stomach, which makes it less acidic, then we have much more risk of getting bad bacteria into the digestive tract, because the pH, as low as it is, that acidic environment will kill most of the bad bacteria or fungus. So when we start tampering with the pH of the stomach, we can actually allow bacteria that should not be there to get in, because we've kind of eliminated the gatekeeper, which is that strong stomach acid. So just something else to keep in mind. All right. So let's go ahead and we will make our lemon water. This is a beverage that I did not invent. I must give credit where credit is due. I have a friend who has a lifestyle center in Northern California. Her name is Mercy Ballard. You might have seen her, does a lot of online things now. But she invented this drink, and it's very simple, but very effective in helping to detoxify the liver. So, we're going to make this together. The first thing I'm going to do is wash my hands, because you all always do that before you make a recipe, especially if other people are going to drink it. And the lemons have already been washed,
Yes,
right? So why don't you all come on up, and I'm going to go wash my hands, and we'll go ahead and get to this.
You know, yeah.
Place it where they can see.
Okay. All right, so we're going to open this up here. And she makes it pretty strong. And I'll tell you what, you're not going to want to drink it if she's making it for you. It is very helpful for detoxing, but you also want to make it palatable. You want to make it as enjoyable as possible while still getting the benefit, right? So we are going to be kind of mild in our usage of the Epsom salt, because that's what gives it the worst taste. Why is Epsom salt helpful, though? Anyone know? What is Epsom salt used for? It's magnesium, so it's a good magnesium supplement. But if I were to read the label here, what would it say Epsom salt is useful for internal use?
Laxative.
Laxative, yes. And depending on how profound the laxative effect you want, you add more or less Epsom salt. So I want everyone to drive home in peace. We're going to be very light on it. Okay, so we will need a teaspoon.
Okay.
And
What do you think about lemon juice? I mean, you have to have real lemon juice.
well, there's some lemon juice that has no preservatives. That's going to be ideal.
Okay.
But most lemon juice has a lot of preservatives in it. The kind like, get the plastic lemon bottle, that has a lot of preservatives in it. So you kind of want to avoid that, because that's going to interfere with your gut bacteria, the healthy bacteria and that kind of thing. So this is the best source right here. All right, so we have lemon squeezer. And for this, we are going to take, we're going to make 1 quart. Is that 1 quart or 2 quarts? That's 1 quart, right? Okay, we're going to make 1 quart, and we want, let's see how many cups? 4 cups in a quart, is that right? Yeah, 4 cups in a quart. Okay, we have, this is maybe 3 ounces there. Is that right? Maybe 4 ounces. So that's half a cup. And one of those is half a cup. I want everyone to be able to get half a lemon. Everyone's going to get half a lemon in their cup. Okay? So we multiply 1/2 lemon times, help me here. 1/2 lemon times 1 serving, so 4 cups. We need 8 half lemons, right? So we're going to take that looks too much. I think we're going to go with 4 lemons. Yeah, 4 lemons per, 4 half lemons per this. So if we were to break this down into a formula, you probably have about 1/2 lemon per cup. Okay, so 1/2 lemon per cup. And usually you're going to drink about 1 to 2 cups, so 1/2 to 1 lemon. And we can write this recipe down actually right here. Yes. So let's just keep it simple. We'll do 1 lemon ounces. Those are half a cup, not sure. So let's go ahead and squeeze these. Now, I'm not the best lemon squeezer, but I guess it goes something like this, right?
Ben can help you.
Ben?
She's squeezing
Okay.
Okay, we did one thing. Wash your hands.
Yes.
Take this one and sing
All
for me.
right. Okay, so while Brother Ben is squeezing these lemons, let's talk a little
Wash
bit more
your
about the
hands.
Epsom salt. Yes, wash his hands first. We will need this teaspoon measure here, and we are going to, this is 1 teaspoon. This is the compound we want to be careful with because we don't want to have too much because it does make quite a bitter taste. So we're going to take, we have 4 cups here. We're going to take this is all we're going to put in this, okay? So it's going to be 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm sorry, this should actually read 2 cups. So 1 lemon, 1 whole lemon. I was thinking 1/2 lemon per cup. 1 whole lemon per 2 cups of water. All
You
right?
want him to squeeze all of them?
Yes. And then we're gonna take over here, 1/2 teaspoon of Epsom salt per 2 cups. Okay, so what does that equate to? Well, we've got 2 cups of water. And then we're gonna have 1 squeezed lemon. And then we're gonna have 1/2 teaspoon Epsom salt. Okay, everyone got that? Now, because we have 4 cups there, we're gonna double this. Okay, but this is pretty much all you need. You don't necessarily need to drink all that. You can. And in my friend's detox remedy, she does have a person drink about that much every morning. Now they sip on it until they're done, but and you know it's helpful, but it's kind of hard to do that every morning. This should be a pretty easy target right here if you like to do though. 2 cups of water, 1 squeezed lemon, 1/2 teaspoon of Epsom salt.
So what would you recommend, instead of every day, since it
Well-
might be, not a good thing?
Well, I don't think it would be a bad thing to do this maybe for a week or 2
Okay, and then stop.
and then stop, and you could do it. I mean, if you like to do it, this would not hurt you to have every day.
Oh, okay,
Unless you start having loose stool, then you need to back off of the Epsom salt. So,
okay.
but I know people that drink lemon water every day in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah, we drink it.
So it's
Yeah,
it's a
I
good
thought
thing.
you was talking about that was gonna be in there. Yeah, the
We are
lemon
gonna,
juice is
yeah, we're
fine.
gonna put lemon juice and the Epsom salt in this.
Okay, that's why I was asking if you put that, this Epsom salt in there?
Yes,
You still can drink that in the morning
yes, you can.
with that?
Yes,
But if you drink a lemon juice water already, what's
You
the
just add that
difference?
Epsom salt. The Epsom salt will give you more magnesium, which helps the muscles to relax in the body. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium.
Okay,
So it's a good supplement of magnesium, but it also helps to relax smooth muscle. Your bile duct is smooth muscle.
okay,
The intestines are smooth muscle. It helps to relax that and potentially increase the flow of bile so you can detoxify more bile
oh,
with
okay,
that beverage.
oh, okay,
So it's kind of a boost to the
Okay.
detoxifying effects of the lemon.
okay.
This is 3 halves.
Okay, all right. Why don't you go ahead and do 1 more half then? So we get that full amount. And then we'll pour that in the jar here.
So how much magnesium is gonna be in a 1/2 teaspoon? Does it tell you on
That's a good question. This is probably gonna measure in tablespoons because they expect you're gonna take it for its full laxative effect. Let's see here, it's so small. Okay, adults and children, 12 years and older, 2 to 4 level teaspoons dissolved in water. So you can see they're taking quite a bit more to the laxative effect, but it doesn't say how much magnesium.
I was just wondering because I take magnesium capsules, so.
Oh, here it is. It's right here.
Oh,
Each teaspoon contains 495 milligrams of magnesium, which is
Whoa.
probably, that's a good amount.
yeah.
That's each teaspoon. So keep in mind, you're not gonna have that much right now because we're gonna use the small cups. But if you were to have half of this, which is our recipe here, you would have about 250 milligrams of magnesium. And I don't know how much your supplement is, but I've seen 1,000 milligrams per day of magnesium supplements. I'm not sure how much you take.
I thought, well, it's usually gonna be like 350, somewhere
350.
in there, if I'm taking it that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
mine about 250. When we
250.
take the magnesium a day,
Uh-huh.
we take one magnesium a day.
One capsule.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this could also be your magnesium supplement then.
Right.
You could replace the pill while you're doing this, just have your magnesium coming from this.
And then don't use the pill.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily need to.
Okay.
Mhm. But that is a good thing to keep in mind. Anytime you add additional minerals and you're already taking them, keep in mind and add everything up.
Okay.
So,
Brother Ron, you said now if your stool becomes loose, back up off of the Epsom salt?
yes, yeah. I'm not sure if that would happen with this little amount, but definitely if you were to take a couple teaspoons, you're gonna have more of a laxative effect. But keep in mind the serving for this is about half a teaspoon. So it may or may not cause you any issues. That being said, it's not always a bad thing to have a laxative effect if you're in the right place, you know, and the right time. So keep that in mind. If it is causing issues, then just back off on the magnesium. So, okay, so let's go ahead and add everything together here. We can add our lemon juice. And how many recipes am I making?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well,
6,
over here, right?
8. Okay.
How many recipes can fit in here?
2 cups of water.
So there's 2 cups in that one recipe, but how many cups can fit in here?
4.
4, right? So we're actually doubling this recipe.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's why we're adding the teaspoon of magnesium to this, because it's doubling that recipe there.
Oh, okay, so you're not getting it as much,
No.
okay.
So you could take this whole thing.
Can you put it in the refrigerator and just have it, drink it every day?
Yeah, you could,
Okay,
definitely.
okay.
Mhm. Okay. Let's add the rest here. We're gonna get our full 4 cups.
Now what's that? That's a 4-ounce jar?
This is a 1 quart or 4 cup jar.
So
Mhm.
that's what that's what you got up there, 4 cup. I mean, when you double it's 4 cup.
Mhm. So that's it right there. That's our detox drink. Now keep in mind, if you do want more of a laxative effect, you could go for the full recommended dosage over here.
And what is that again?
That would be 2 to 4 teaspoons
Oh,
per serving, but that's a lot of
Oh,
magnesium.
no.
And you may not like the taste of it either. This is gonna taste much better than that.
I think that's what, if I could do it, I would stay at there.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and serve these for everyone.
Okay, everyone get.
Go ahead, Brother Dan.
Now, what kind of charcoal?
No, it's not bad.
What kind of charcoal?
We charcoal free. But right here, this is, yellow salt.
I don't want to say charcoal.
Oh, he had it up there on the thing. He had it up there.
Keep in mind that You don't want to get Epsom salt that has,
Come on, Elder, it's yours.
that's made with fragrance in it. Because sometimes you'll find Epsom salt that's
I
made
don't
for
use
soap.
that with the fragrance in it,
Yeah.
'cause I always brought up with just the regular.
Yes,
And man added all this other stuff to it.
yes.
You can't even taste that.
That's not bad, it's just lemon.
No, you
It's
keep it,
more
no, you
lemony.
keep it right there.
It's
Yeah.
more lemony.
You need some more?
Sure, yeah, who else would like some?
Yes, but you
You
can't
want
taste
one
it.
too?
I'll take one, sure.
You can't taste it.
Okay.
So you get
So
a
that's
nice, subtle magnesium flavor in it,
Yeah.
not too overwhelming.
Add a little honey to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't detox.
Oh, yes, you can.
I know you can, but you don't really need no sugar.
Oh, you give me a little more.
You get the extra pulp variety here.
Like you said, you can still feel the lemon.
Did everyone get some?
Mm-hmm.
All right, excellent. So I have one left for me then. All right. So here's
Pour
to
that
good
little
health.
bit, pour that little bit in.
Watch out, there's a seed in there.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So how many of you think you could drink 2 cups of this every
I
morning?
can.
I can, not past
I
that.
could do it.
Mhm, yeah.
What about you, Elder?
I do a lot of lemon water every day anyway, so I just had to add, adding the
Yeah.
magnesium that, I didn't know about that. So.
See, I also warm my sweet in the morning. If I
That's
did
good.
add
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna
Epsom
go.
salt.
Exactly.
That bad.
Yeah. When you start getting a little bit more over a half teaspoon